Okay, so let's solve this absolute value equation. Do what we normally need to do, which is first we can subtract both sides by 5. So if we do that, we should just be left with -4 on the right side. Here we can divide both sides by 2. We get x plus 2, absolute value of x plus 2 is equal to -2. So typically when you do absolute value equations, you do try to isolate the absolute value. And typically in school, students don't remember the exact rules, so they think, okay, to get rid of the absolute value, we need to make two answers, right? We have to do x plus 2 is equal to the positive version, and x plus 2 is equal to the negative version of the number on the right side. And they remember this, and then they're like, okay, let's solve this. We would get x equals 0 and x equals -4 as our answers if we subtract by 2, and they mistakenly get the answer choice C. Right. But of course, this doesn't work. If we plug back 0 or -4, let's just plug 0 back in. We plug 0 back in, we 0 plus 2 plus 5 equals 1. This will be 2. Absolute value of 2 plus 5 is equal to 1. This will be absolute value of 2 is just 2. We're going to get like 9 is equal to 1, which is definitely not true. So it means something went wrong. But what went wrong? Well, it has to do with this step right here. We can't really split the absolute value into two separate equations, although you might be like, that's what I've done with all other equations. But let's just actually evaluate this line right here. In this line right here, it's saying the absolute value of x plus 2 is equal to -2. Now, one way to think about this is something inside the absolute value becomes -2. And from here, you should realize that it actually doesn't really matter what's inside here. The absolute value of anything will always be either 0 or positive. So there's no way for you to get a number such as -2, right? So when do we split the equation? Well, typically if you isolate the absolute value and you get something like absolute value equals, let's say, a positive number like 5, then you can sort of imagine, yeah, if I had 5 or -5 inside this absolute value, when I take the absolute value of that number, it will turn out to be 5. And so in this case, it would make sense that the answer can be 5 or -5, and we can set whatever is inside the absolute value equal to these two values. But if you have an absolute value is equal to a negative number, this doesn't really work, and we should get the answer that there's no solution.